This is a restricted area. Identify yourselves. A tour group? Don't be ridiculous. Does this place look like a museum to you? Everyone put your hands behind your back and turn around.
Whoa there. There's no need for that. These people are with me.
Marshall, what's the meaning of this?
It's just like you heard. They're part of my tour group.
What tour group?
These guys are PhD students for xenoarchaeology from the University of Mars.
I was not informed about any visitors today, Shadow Marshal. I will need to verify this with the commander.
That will not be necessary.
Step aside, Marshal.
Fine then. Have it your way. Though in that case, name and rank, sailor.
Excuse me?
I need your name and rank so I can inform this development to Lord Hood.
Lord Hood?
Yes, because of you, I will need to explain to the Admiral why these poor students' education was disrupted, and I will need the name and rank of any individual who dares to threaten my students. So name and rank, sailor.
That won't be necessary, Shadow Marshal. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy your tour.
Thank you, sailor. You are dismissed. Attaboy. Phew, sorry about that, everyone. People at Oni can be quite uptight. But man, I can't believe that guy actually fell for it. Yeah, the Admiral actually has no idea we're here. But hey, invoking his name works every single time, and it hasn't failed so far. But that's also our little secret. Shh. Anyways, welcome back everybody. Right now we are in Site Yankee-002-G3, a classified UNSC research station near where the ancient human prime cruiser was first found. Its specific coordinates are, no surprise, classified, and for good reason too. In fact, most of the galaxy is unaware of these derelict artifacts, or hell, even the existence of ancient humanity itself. If the public ever found out about the existence of a spacefaring human civilization from millions of years ago, all of humanity would be at an uproar, as it would undermine almost all of our established history as a species. History books would have to be rewritten for sure, and many would begin having severe existential crises, as everything they once knew about humanity turned out to be wrong. The revelations of the Covenant and the Forerunners were already shocking as they were. This would change the calculus in monumental levels. Therefore, the Office of Naval Intelligence has decided to keep this information under the lid for the time being. Though that's not to say its various research divisions can't study these artifacts and see what our ancestors were up to. Along with the Prime Cruiser itself, its interior also houses various advanced technologies that resemble the Forerunners, yet still distinct in their own right. One of these technologies stands right in front of you, which is an advanced power armor once used by the ancient human warriors during their fight against the Forerunners. In contrast to the Forerunner combat skins, which tend to be more sleek and chrome-like, this human power armor is slightly bulkier with darker tones. In fact, it looks eerily similar to the Mjolnir power armor used by the Spartan super soldiers. So much so that the UNSC has adopted its designs into the new Hellcat class armor, which interestingly showed near perfect synchronization with the Spartan 2 super soldiers, while the Spartan 4s took some time to acclimate. While the exact inner workings of this power armor still remain a mystery, various tests have demonstrated the armor's incredible durability, with most contemporary human and Covenant weapons shown to be ineffective from the simulations. Only the Forerunner weapons have been calculated to inflict enough damage, and that's only after depleting its incredibly abundant energy shielding. Given these discoveries, it's no wonder that our ancient ancestors managed to stand up against the Forerunners, who are still the dominant power of the galaxy. Despite being greatly outnumbered and exhausted from the Flood's onslaught, humanity did not relent and continued to fight on for another millennium. And that is what we will cover today as we continue off from our last tour, where humanity miraculously defeated the Flood infestation. But with the parasite no more, the humans and the Forerunners now turn against each other, at long last eager to settle their scores once and for all, and finally answer the question, who is best fit to carry the Mantle of Responsibility?
Our enemies move deeper into our territory with abandon. They must be eradicated.
Shall we take revenge? Abandon the mantle and all that its philosophy has given us these 1,000 generations?
All our plans have been torn asunder.
More reason not to abandon our beliefs. The mantle is our guidepost in times such as these. We must not falter in following its teachings. The enemy must be sent home, and taught to stand with the galaxy, rather than rail against us and take what they desire. The Mantle shelters all.
Didact, you make a fair, if uncomfortable, point. You have my support. Librarian, will you likewise follow the Mantle as the Didact suggests?
Yes, Master Builder.
Welcome to Sharum Hakor, or at least what's left of it. This is the former capital world of the ancient human empire, as well as where our ancestors made their desperate last stand against the Forerunners. Despite the valiant efforts of the human warriors, the Forerunner fleets under the Didact proved too overwhelming for the defenders. Once the Forerunner fleets broke through the orbital defenses, the once mighty ancient human civilization quickly crumbled. If you recall the previous part covering the Human Flood War, the conflict between humanity and the Forerunners officially began amidst the former's containment efforts against the Flood. The human fleets under the Lord of Admirals for Tencho were determined to eradicate all flood-infested worlds, no matter where nor who inhabited them. As Enduring Shadow put it, human, Forerunner, Sentium, or any other sentient beings, they did not discriminate. Unfortunately, the Forerunners did not take kindly to humanity's aggression, regardless of the parasite's predicament. Some of you may wonder why both sides did not resort to diplomacy, or at the very least attempt to communicate their respective positions, especially against the greater common threat that was the Flood. Unfortunately, the Forerunners snubbed these warnings, viewing them as nothing more than deceptive excuses from humanity, who was already expanding throughout the stars with unrepentant aggression. And honestly, who could blame them, especially when humanity was just wiping out planets left and right? All that said, even if both sides did set aside their differences and cooperated against the Flood, the bitter truth is that a great clash between humanity and the Forerunners was inevitable. In fact, their rivalry began within their very inception from the times of the Precursors. While the Forerunners jealously guarded their position as the upholders of the Mantle of Responsibility, humanity rapidly built up its strength and established its own interstellar empire, not only to escape the Forerunners' yoke, but also to one day challenge them and claim what they viewed as rightfully theirs. Both sought the Mantle, and there was only one way to settle this conflict of interest. For the Forerunners, humanity's aggression against their infested worlds served as the perfect casus belli to vanquish their greatest rival once and for all. And the Didact, the supreme commander of the Ecumene's military, was determined to deliver their mandate. With the human forces severely exhausted from its fight against the Flood, the Didact promptly mobilized its forces to capitalize on its weakened state. Despite humanity's impressive arsenal, especially when it came to their precursor-engineered weaponry, the Forerunners still greatly outclassed them in most fields. The latter demonstrated superb mastery in slip-space travel, astroengineering, and artificial intelligence, which allowed the Didact's forces to circumvent the humans' offensive advantage. The Forerunners' mastery in slip-space travel not only allowed them to traverse the galaxy much faster than the humans, but also gave the ability to manipulate the actual slip-space dimensions, which was utilized to intercept human supply routes and isolate individual human worlds. The Forerunners' incredible megastructures allowed the Ecumene to reach industrial capabilities that exponentially dwarfed the human empire. Even if the humans destroyed 1,000 Forerunner ships in a battle, the Ecumene's planet-sized factories produced millions of more ships for replacement, many of which were also automated thanks to their advancements in AI. However, that's not to say humanity didn't have some aces up its sleeves. As mentioned before, the human forces did possess some offensive advantages, thanks to their study of precursor technology. A lone human prime cruiser was more than capable of fighting off an entire Forerunner fleet. Even the Didact himself noted how the humans possessed offensive weaponry that his forces had no effective defenses against, resulting in some catastrophic losses. Among the losses were the Didact's own children, all who were slain in battle. This enabled the human forces to still stand against the Forerunners in direct engagements, even when severely outnumbered in the thousands. However, while the humans' ingenuity and tactical brilliance won the many battles, it was still insufficient to win the war. No matter how many Forerunner fleets and armies the humans destroyed, the Ecumene could always replace them faster than the humans could kill. In the end, the Forerunner Ecumene strategically outclassed the human empire by leagues. And given humanity's already weakened state due to the Flood's onslaught, the Didact could simply resort to attrition and starve out the human forces. By 106,498 BCE, after almost 1,000 years of brutal campaigns across the galaxy, the human empire was reduced to its capital world, Sharum HaKor, with most of their colonies lost, their fleets destroyed, and the Didact's forces now on their doorstep. Any hope of victory was out of the question. Now, all that mattered was survival. Therefore, the Lord of Admirals Fortentio rallied his coalition of human remnants and Sanshayum allies, and prepared a defensive sphere by turning Sharum HaKor into a planetary redoubt. What was once the glorious and flourishing might of the rich human civilization was now reduced into a hyper-militarized fortress world, completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Fortunately, thanks to the various precursor structures native to the planet, Sharum HaKor became virtually impenetrable, with its various star roads and orbital arches repelling all assaults from the Didact's forces. In addition, having gained intricate knowledge of the Didact's war strategy, Fortentio knew how to counter his greatest rival. No matter how many assaults the Didact conducted against the human capital, he struggled to achieve a breakthrough. This allowed humanity to endure the Forerunner siege for an impressive 53 years. With seemingly no way of overcoming Sharum HaKor's defenses, the humans could theoretically withstand the Forerunners indefinitely, even if they were reduced to a rump state. However, the Didact was unperturbed. The warrior servant was determined to deliver the Ecumene's mandate, even if it costed his own life. These humans took the lives of his own children, along with millions of more of his kin in their onslaught. The Didact was hellbent to see them punished for their crimes against the Mantle, and until then, he would not rest. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the civil state of human society showed severe strain. After a millennia of war against both the Flood and now the Forerunners, losing a majority of its population and its entire civilization now under threat of extinction, to say humanity's morale was at an all-time low was a severe understatement. Furthermore, the Flood's onslaught, as well as horrific revelations about their nature from a mysterious force, left the humans traumatized with existential dread, resulting in many of its scientists unaliving themselves. Therefore, despite the nominal successes of Sharum HaKor's defense, many began questioning just how much longer they could endure these conditions. Among them were humanity's very own allies, the Sanshayum, who believed defeat was inevitable and refused to get dragged further into a sinking ship. At this point, it was clear their alliance with humanity no longer served their interests. Therefore, the Sanshayum leadership covertly made contact with the Forerunners to negotiate their fates. Eager to finally end this war once and for all, the two parties established a secret agreement. The Sanshayum would deactivate Sharum HaKor's orbital defenses and pave way for the Didact's forces. In exchange, the Sanshayum would be spared from extinction and devolution, and instead quarantined to their own homeworld. While not the most ideal of conditions, it was leagues better than what the Forerunners had planned for humanity. By collaborating with the Forerunners, the Sanshayum could recover and perhaps one day rejoin the galactic community. Upon the deactivation of the orbital defenses, multiple slip space portals appeared above Sharum HaKor, finally allowing the Didact's forces to breach the human capital. While caught off guard by the Sanshayum's treachery, the human forces did not relent and continued their defense. Still, their efforts were futile, as the Didact's fleets quickly overwhelmed the defenders and established supremacy above orbit, before finally making landfall on the planet's surface. What followed was a bloody meat grinder, with human warriors and a few loyal Sanshayum allies desperately fighting off the Forerunner warrior servants, street by street within the confined cities of the capital. Knowing what fate awaited them after defeat, many humans chose to either die in battle or simply take their own lives. Soon, the last survivors, among them the Lord of Admirals Fortentio himself, were pushed back to Citadel Sharum, a grand precursor structure considered their most holy site. Completely surrounded by the Forerunner warrior servants, his greatest foe, the Didact himself, approached him. Not to smite him, rather surprisingly, offering terms of surrender. While many of his comrades refused to relent, by this point, Fortentio knew that the war was now truly lost. The Lord of Admirals gave his final command by ordering the lowering of weapons, finally surrendering to the Didact. What fate had awaited him was now beyond his control. By 106,445 BCE, the human empire took its last breath, and the Human-Forerunner War officially ended.
Lord of Admirals. So very many years have we battled. My finest opponents. The Mantle accepts all who live fiercely, who defend their young, build and struggle, and grow. And even those who dominate, as humans have dominated, cruelly, without wisdom. But for all of us, there is a time like this.
And that finally concludes the climactic yet tragic end to ancient humanity. Now, there is some debate within the fandom whether ancient humanity could have actually won against the Forerunners had it not encountered the Flood. While such an alternate timeline does sound intriguing, as with any other alt history scenarios of Hearts of Iron 4, in my opinion, there was no way the ancient human empire, which only possessed about 20,000 worlds, could have possibly won against the Forerunners, whose entire ecumene encompassed over 3 million worlds. Those numbers cannot even be compared. The truth is that the entire Forerunner war machine was much larger, more resilient, and sustainable than what the humans could muster. Yes, the humans did have certain offensive advantages, such as their fireball cutters, which decimated entire Forerunner fleets. But the Forerunner megastructures could produce millions of vessels and simply outproduce the humans, who couldn't even come close to replicating such industrial capabilities. Indeed, the ancient humans were one of the greatest enemies the Forerunners ever faced, with the Didact even acknowledging them as worthy and respectable foes. However, their tactical brilliance, and the possession of a few precursor artifacts, or any other quote-unquote wonder weapons, still wasn't enough to sustain themselves against the strategic attrition inflicted by the massive juggernaut that was the Forerunner ecumene. Even if the humans never encountered the Flood and faced the Forerunners at full strength, at most, it would have just bought them more time than anything. In the end, the humans were massively outclassed by the Forerunners. Therefore, as heartbreaking as it is for me to say, I believe humanity's defeat was inevitable. But, if you disagree with this view and believe humanity could have actually defeated the Forerunners, feel free to comment below. Lore knower, I'm looking forward to your essay. But for now, that is where we will conclude today's lesson. In the next tour, we will cover the interbellum period, exploring the immediate aftermath of the conflict, as well as the subsequent political ramifications within the Forerunner ecumene. Until then, I will see you all next time.
Shadow Marshal?
Ah, you're here again. Don't worry, we just wrapped up our tour.
Admiral Lord Hood would like a word with you.
What for?
For misuse of his authority.
That's rich coming from Oni.
You're coming with us, Marshal.
Well, damn, it finally caught up to me. Well, in that case, everyone, if you don't hear back from me, Enduring Shadow will cover for me in the next tour. So, just check your emails, okay?
Move it!
Alright already. Easy on the back, damn.
Well, this is awkward. Class dismissed. Just hang around the lounge area, and we'll have somebody pick you up. I didn't sign up for this shit.
Thank you to my patrons on Patreon for supporting this channel. My $5 patrons are Kapitan Sladek, Kidzap, Chocoburb, and Dravenraven. My $2 patrons are Komida the Prep Cook Demon. If you would like to appear at the end credits of my videos, as well as have early access and exclusive content on Patreon, feel free to hop on over to patreon.com/LTELawrence and give a pledge. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this is T. Lawrence of the Arcadia, signing out.